reason, I think St. Francis was for the animals or something. They always associate him with being a, or maybe, I don't know.
Huh. So maybe Dr. Dolittle is based on the Franciscan
It's
order.
possible, but yeah, I think the Franciscan, they take the vow of poverty, and because that's what St. Francis did, I think. Kind of like Buddha. It's funny that you said that, like coming from wealth, giving up all your worldly goods.
Yeah. Well, it's not, I don't know if it's so unusual that different philosophies and religions would have, similar takes on life. It doesn't seem all that far-fetched.
Right.
But the Franciscans and Buddhists would both take that vow of having no worldly possessions and
well, Assisi is a very, they say, or St. Francis of Assisi from that area, and they say it's one of the most peaceful spiritual places in the world, and people come.
Where is Assisi in Italy geographically?
Well, you have Perugia and Umbria. It's in Umbria, and I think it's actually considered part of the city of Perugia. Like you have the main city, and then little towns which are frazione, or like little. How would you? So it's part of the, Bethel is part of the greater Danbury area.
Used to be, yeah.
So Assisi would be part of the greater area of Perugia.
Perugia, yeah.
Provincia, in the province of.
Okay. Now, is that northern, central, or southern Italy? Sicily?
Central, I would say, definitely.
So it kind of in this area, Rome's kind of centralized in Italy, at least on the east coast, sort of halfway up.
Well, Umbria is they call it the green heart, the cuore verde, because it's the one region in Italy that's completely landlocked. Since Italy's a peninsula. Yeah. It doesn't touch the sea at all.
It's not really that. I guess it's wider than, say, Florida, and Florida has some areas in the center that are nowhere near the ocean. Or the Gulf.
It has lakes, but no sea. Doesn't touch any sea. So sea's a lot, and it's a lot of hill towns. A lot of towns built in the hills. So when you go to Assisi, you walk up and down hills, really, and so it's in the middle, central. Okay. You have Tuscany, Umbria, and the Marche region. It's a little bit of maybe an hour and a half north of Rome.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But as far as the Franciscan monks, what do I know about them? They just, they take vows of poverty. They help the poor, which I guess all monks do. I don't know if they're cloistered or live in solitude. I don't know about that.
Well, I know that if being an aficionado of the Twilight Zone,
right?
I know that they're always on the outlook for devious characters that go around howling like wolves, because there was that Twilight Zone episode where the monks, I think it was called Howling Man.
Okay.
And it starts off with a guy traveling through the countryside, and it's the weather's terrible out, and he seeks refuge at a place that's run by monks. Ah. And he goes, they let him in the front. Well, they try to chase him away because they don't. But he just begs if he can come in for a while until the rain lets up. And he gets inside, and the first thing that happens, he hears this, "How?"
And where's this?
It's somewhere in Central Europe. I don't think it's in Italy, but it's a cloister. Is it called a cloister?
Right, where they're in seclusion, kind of. Yeah.
And so they tell him, whatever you do, don't go near that door over there.
Right.
And of course, the first thing he does when they all go to bed is he goes over to the door and because he's curious.
Right.
And there's a guy inside there, and he's begging the guy, look, could you please just let me out? These crazy monks have me captive.
Right.
And they won't let me out. They're nuts. They've made me a captive, and I'm stranded here. And the guy happens to notice that all the guy has inside the room has to do is reach out through between the bars, which are this far apart, and go like this, and he could lift up the thing that's keeping him from getting out. But for some reason he can't do that. It has to be somebody else that lets him out. And finally, through his wiles, this guy gets the one that's there overnight to lift up the thing. The guy automatically comes out, and you see him change from this scruffy-looking guy into this really dapper-looking, like a devil almost. He looks like a devil.
Interesting.
He charges, he walks, he just pushes past the guy, and then he's off, and he's out, and next thing you know, the atomic bomb is being dropped somewhere, and it's
interesting.
And the thrust of the story is that at the end of the show, at the end of that story, this guy, it's been his job, because he let him out, to trap him. He's trapped him. He's got him locked in a room, and here comes the cleaning lady for some reason to come to clean the apartment. And he says, "Whatever you do, don't open that door."
Right, of course.
And needless to say, what she does is she opens the door,
exactly.
and bada bing, the guy's out again, and he's going to wreak havoc again.
It's like Bluebeard, right? Like, or Pandora's, it's like, whatever
Pandora's
you do,
box.
don't open that,
Yeah. So anyway, that's the Twilight Zone. So something in that maybe this is sort of like, this sort of is following the
St. Francis?
The monks. They probably have some guy in a room somewhere, and don't anybody ever let that guy out. So, Perugia.
Okay, yeah. I used to...
So you're down in New York City, and the Pope's down there.
Right.
Or actually, were you there when he was there?
Well, I was there. I didn't see. I was in the city when the UN. I guess apparently the Pope might have been there, because I just remember 42nd Street and they shut down Midtown because near the.
Come and meet.
They shut down
Pope.
Midtown. There were no taxis running on Lexington Avenue and 42nd Street because of the UN, and it just messed everything up. And when I finally did take a taxi back to the train station, I got stuck.
Yeah, in traffic, and the meter's running.
Exactly. He's
that's why the taxis aren't running, because all they're going to get is grief from the riders saying, can't you take a left here and go 4 blocks that way? No, because you can't, because everybody else is doing that too.
Exactly. So I was just, I didn't care anymore. Just get me home. Yeah. So, but hopefully things are going to be better, and the less I have to go into the city, the better. But anyway.
So while you're gone, we have these 2 guys on.
Yes.
And they came on to talk about Bernie Sanders. And
communism or socialism. Yeah,
well, we can't say it's not communism. Because communism is more of a political thing where you although, I forget who it was. Maybe it was Donald Trump or some other idiot that said, it's an alleged quote from Nikita Khrushchev. That we're not gonna try to force communism on them right off the bat. We'll give them little dabs of socialism and ease them into it. Now, whether he said that or not, your guess is as good as mine. And people make up things all the time.
Yeah.
About these quotes from people like Nikita Khrushchev.
Well, Ronald Reagan used to scare people about.
Oh my God! Yes.
Communism or socialism.
God, yeah. Oh my, yeah. He's
But go on. Okay, so
they came on. They came on, and we're talking about socialism. We're talking about Bernie Sanders, and we had an interesting conversation. We had a bit of disagreement about the capital, the tax rate on stock trades, where I had thought that you when you sold stock, you paid at the capital rate gain, which I think is 15%. But one of the guests said, no, actually, it's you pay at the whatever your tax rate is, which might be as much as 35% or 39%.
Huh. Interesting.
Must be Lara, Whistling Wizard.
Yeah, maybe.
Somebody from Ohio. Okay. So.
So did these 2 gentlemen you had on? Did they talk about socialism in Europe? Were they aware of other countries that had socialist practices?
They didn't know as much about Europe as they did about the socialist practices that have been in place in America for a long time, since since the Great Depression, when we brought in Social Security but even further back to that, obviously, since about 110, 115 years now, we've had public education, which is socialist. You know, it's a guarantee that every child deserves an education.
Right.
And we all pay for that collectively, and the screen's off.
Well, I don't know why they can't
keep on talking.
I don't see why, if we can have free public education, why doesn't it continue on to college?
Yeah, why not? I mean, gosh, why not? Why not just keep it going? Yeah.
Or healthcare. I mean,
yeah. It just makes sense that everybody would get the basics and.
And then you don't start out life like hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, you know?
Yeah, and like in your dad's case, I mean, it's not in his case, but in younger doctors' cases, they come out of medical school and they're owing literally hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loans, and it puts them kind of behind the eight ball to begin with, and it takes a lot of the pleasure out of doing a profession when you start off deeply in debt.
And then healthcare becomes all about money and not about, what it should be about, which is, taking care of people.
Yeah, providing people with keeping people healthy.
Right.
Basic health care to provide people with the things that keep them healthy.
Right.
So.
No, it's true, and I was talking to someone about that today, how I was talking to someone today who was in the hospital, and he said that he was actually really happy with the care he received at Danbury Hospital, and that some of the healthcare workers were saying that some of the patients weren't that nice to, and he's saying, people, instead of, they're just,
Remind me to call Basil later.
Okay, just saying that I think that healthcare should be people should allow healthcare workers to help them, and both taking part in the healing process instead of possibly.
You're still cranking, right?
The first one was done. We're still recording that.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine. Okay. I can edit it later.
All right. So I just think. I think. Instead, and working in any kind, when you work with people and customer service or whatever, I mean, they should be appreciating the help that they're receiving instead of maybe being entitled or demanding.
It seems like,
saying.
It seems like, and people do go into the medical profession most of the time, and for almost 100% for the right reasons. They go in there because they see an opportunity to make somebody's life a little bit better. They're paying it forward because. One day, they're going to be, they could very well be in that position and counting on other people to take care of them.
And it's interesting because I think when you make everything, being bought and sold and, everything in industry, because I remember being in college and I'd gone to a private university and there were students in my classes that would go right up to the professors and say, you better give me an A because I'm paying your salary. Whereas I think if education were paid for by the state, like kids couldn't go up to the teachers and say, you better give me an A because I'm paying your salary.
And teachers could say, sit down and shut up. And
exactly. So once
you got a reasonable question, a reasonable comment, we're open for that. But otherwise,
once you allow something to be bought or sold, basically you're a slave of whoever's paying you.
Yeah.
So I think we just, it's get that out of the way, and then you get down to what it's really about: education, learning, healthcare, medicine, taking care of people. But once you make it a commodity and bought and sold, it just, I don't know, it changes the playing field. The haves and the have-nots, and who's in the power, and who's
on the inside and who's on the outside.
Right, exactly. It's just a way of separating people, So maybe if you make everyone equal, then no one's better than anybody else.
Yeah.
And, I just had that epiphany right now. I was like, wow, it's true. Once you make anything, kind of, whether it's education or healthcare, I'm paying you, so you better make me better or else, know. Or else
commercialize it, you put a price tag on it, and then it becomes less of there's less free giving and more people that are paying, or whose parents are paying, provides them more of a sense of ownership.
And exactly, and this person I was working with, this patient I was working with today was saying, you would think that if someone's in a situation where someone is helping you and wants to help you get better, you would think that you'd be nice to them because this person's like, basically like life or death, you know, they're helping me get better. Why would I want to be mean or nasty?
Yeah.
You know, I would want to be nice to them so they help me, you know. Or even
it seems to make sense.
Yeah, it seems to make sense, but yeah. Oh, so yeah, I was in the city when the Pope was there, and that's over with. I guess he's gone back to Italy, the Vatican now. And,
yeah.
What else is going on?
What about these red shoes that he wears? He said especially made red shoes.
Huh?
That's made by Prada, the fashion designer.
Really?
And they're red and they're pointy toed and they're kind of. And they've got some kinds of special stitching in them and all that, and they're
I'm
like
shocked.
slippers, and they're fat. And I'm thinking about a movie that I saw, The Devil Wears Prada.
Right.
I'm thinking to myself, what's this all about? Where
I know, right?
The Devil Wears Prada, and on the other hand, here's all of the popes wearing Prada on their feet.
Well, you know, that's because I would have thought this Pope, he seems to kind of be the antithesis of that. Like he's all about like giving up lunch appointments with high officials to eat with homeless people, you know. I mean, and then like when he was in Italy, he drove a Kia, and when he was in in America, I don't know what kind of car he drove, but I didn't think he'd be wearing Prada.
I think it was a Fiat because that's the Italian car.
But I didn't hear about him wearing Prada. That's very interesting.
Apparently, they all do. They all I don't know, as long as Prada's been around. And they all wear these red fashion designer slippers that... And then this movie comes out, The Devil Wears Prada. Now, what is there a message in that or what? And I didn't like that movie, quite frankly. I mean, it's just...
Why?
Because the boss was so mean, and at the same time, she was very fragile.
Yeah, Meryl Streep was really good in that role.
Yeah, she really played it both ways.
You really felt, it's true.
You felt for her angst,
right?
And then she'd do something, and you say to yourself, "Screw her."
Yeah.
Enough of the feeling for her angst. She's just nasty.
But then you realize she's you know. That's all she has is her, you know. Yeah. Nothing else.
And then the 18th husband dumps her. And, and you know, it's just, you know.
Yeah. No.
Later, Basil.
No. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, there's a lot of stuff coming out. Like I saw that movie Black Mass with Johnny Depp, and he played the Irish mobster in Boston, like in the mid 70s to the 80s. And it's when it was at war, kind of between the black mob and the Italian mob, in Boston, the Irish mob and the Italian mob, and how the not the IRS, the FBI, the FBI was using all the people in the FBI and the cops were all Irish, and then they were kind of all helping each other out. So they sided. They had made an alliance. They call it between
the two mobs.
Oh no, the FBI.
Oh, between the police and the
Irish mob.
And the Irish mob,
because they all started out as street kids, you know, made good, and who became the politician, who became in the FBI, and then so they made an alliance with the Irish mob guy. This guy in the FBI, he says, if you kind of give us information on the Italian mob, then we can get rid of the Italian mob. But in getting rid of the Italian mob, that they let the Irish mob guy become the super power, and kind of let him get away with everything just in order to get information, to destroy the Italians.
So I figured it was better to wipe out one of the two mobs and let one of them survive and prosper than to try to wipe out both of them. So, and it was just funny because like the mob guys would do all these horrible, unspeakable things, and then they'd go to church, and somehow it was all okay. As long as they go to confession. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. Father said, yeah, you're forgiven. Yeah, whatever. Whatever, don't worry about it.
Oh.
Whatever.
So,
and yet the many of the Irish and I guess presumably most of the Catholic,
Right.
and the Italians are all Catholics.
Right, exactly.
So they got the church that's
Yeah.
as a bond and at the same time as a wedge.
Yeah, it was just really interesting because, my dad's roots are Italian and my mom's, half Irish, half Italian, and it's just, but they're both Catholic, so that's that common bond that they share. And, but yeah, it was interesting to think that, about I guess we were just talking about the church and how, these things that go on. And this is up in like the 70s and the 80s. It wasn't that long ago.
No.
How, and who knows if that stuff still goes on. I don't know. Yeah, interesting. But, so Black Mass, Boston.
And this is Johnny Depp?
Johnny Depp, yep. And it was unusual. You'd never to see him play a character like that.
There's a lot of different characters.
Yeah, I'll say.
Does a lot of quite a variety of characters.
Yeah. And I've never been a big mob movie. I've never really seen Goodfellas or any of those. Although people have told me, oh my God, you have to see these movies. But I've never really been. Not that I'm a big.
I'm the only person I know that when somebody says Robert De Niro, I go, eh.
Yeah. Who's in The Intern, by the way? I've heard.
Big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good actor, but so big deal.
Right.
So. I like the Godfather films, at least the first two.
Right.
Which
Al
I guess
Pacino, Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
Who else was in those?
And both films won Academy Awards, which is rare for a follow-up film.
Right.
I mean, who can recall Jaws 2 or Jaws 3 or Jaws 25 or Jaws 47?
Right.
They all stink. The first one was great and the rest of them were worthless. But The Godfather,
right.
You got 1 and 2, both great films.
Number 3 was kind of bad, but 1 and 2 were good.
Three wasn't much, but for the first two to be really interesting films.
Yeah, no, I know, definitely. Who was
Vito?
The other one?
Wasn't it De Niro that played Vito Corleone in the follow-up?
Who's the one who played the father? Oh, he was in Guys and Dolls. What was his name? Marlon Brando.
Oh, Brando,
Yeah.
Yep.
No, The Godfather, good films.
Good actor, yeah.
But it's just interesting, how both these Italians, Irish, Catholic Church, and all this stuff that goes on. And
so how do the Caribbeans come into this? How do they fit into all this? I mean, they've got their own, they've got their own little niche in the, There's some gangsters amongst them too.
Oh, in the Caribbeans? Sure. Oh, I'm not familiar with that at all.
Folks in America that are of Caribbean descent. And of course, just like Italians and just like Irish and just like any other nationality,
right?
99% of them are just regular, good, hard-working folks. But you get the element that are trying to take the easy way out,
right?
And make money and ascend to get ahead in the world by doing devious things.
And what can prevent that from happening? Like education, like getting people off the streets. I mean...
Yeah, give them alternatives.
Yeah.
And then you can cut down the bad apples from 1% down to maybe 1/10%.
Yeah.
Because there's always going to be a few, but it's better. You're right. It's better to have educational opportunities that allow people to...
give people an opportunity.
To do something constructive with their life.
And it's interesting because there was that film about the girl.
Oh, yeah.
And she was in a family. Mother was on welfare, and they lived in the city.
Yep.
And she wanted to go to school, and she was, smart. And then the mother actually didn't want her to go to school. So you could have, because she said, I can't let you go to school because I won't get my... benefits, So then you could have situations where people might want to have the opportunity, and then they're still prevented from.
Parents go through this. And there's also the, the fear in parents that if their kids get to be too much smarter than them or too much better educated than them, then that'll make the parents feel lesser.
Right.
So it's a tough.
Yeah.
It's a tough thing that parents go through. On the one hand, they want their kids to be educated and successful, But on the other hand, they have a fear of that.
Or maybe some kids are afraid of surpassing their parents because they feel...
The dynamics of the family, sure.
Yeah. But my cousin, she's a social worker in New York, and